Hello there, my delicious darlings, and welcome back to the channel. How are you all doing today? Apanth and I have been getting ready for the most romantic day of the year. Yes, Valentine's Day is almost upon us. Despite missing my true love, I still enjoy the day of hearts and flowers. Indeed, I take the day as an opportunity to show my love to myself and my friends. As that includes my wonderful, delicious darlings, I would like to wish you a fun and romantic Valentine's Day. As you may have guessed from the title, today's episode is about mermaids. I have avoided poems about the more famous mermaids of legend and literature, and instead found 3 poems about the more obscure, but still fascinating dwellers of the lake and ocean. So, without further ado, I invite you to gather your story listening supplies. Find a warm and comfy spot to snuggle up in and join me as we discover mermaids of mystery. The Coy Mermaid. In Assyria, the goddess Atargis possessed a beauty that shone like the sun. All who looked at her gave their hearts in a breath. Her glory was beloved by everyone. For many years, she traveled the world freely, until, resting beside a stream one day, she saw a young fisherman plying his trade. He had blonde hair and eyes of gentle gray, and something in his face drew her attention. So much, Atargis couldn't look away. Instead, she smiled at him, and she beckoned him to sit beside her for part of the day. The man saw her, radiant, fair and lovely, and left his work behind to say, "Hello." She answered kindly, her smile warm and pleading. The fisherman asked her with him to go and share his lunch. Atargis agreed kindly. They ate cheese and bread by the water's flow. He watched as she ate, and he smiled in wonder to see her warm eyes glitter, gleam and glow. He spoke to her and read poems he'd written. By mid-afternoon, she was besotted. For many weeks afterwards, fair Atargis walked with the fisherman and shared his bread. Soon, he guided her to his favorite place, a placid lake fringed with trees of light green. They cuddled and kissed there upon the lake bank, and watched what pretty birds could there be seen. The lake was where he caught the elusive fish, the rainbow koi, with sparkling scales so bright. One day, with bashful blush and warm eyes glowing, he asked the goddess to come at midnight down to the lake to lie with him as his bride. Happily, the radiant she goddess came, and by a campfire, her mortal beloved held her in his arms and cried out her name. But when the goddess shattered in ecstasy, her power flashed out brutal, unconfined, and before Lady Atargis had leashed it, it had robbed her love of his life and mind. Atargis tried to bring her lover's soul back. She held him in her arms. She wailed and cried. She howled her anguish up to the high heavens. But soon, the dawn confirmed the man had died. Atargis took his body and buried him beside the lake where the rainbow koi swim. Then, she threw herself into the lake water, that she might be eternally with him, and be food for the bright-finned and lovely koi. But nature would not allow such beauty as she possessed to be wiped out of the world. Her upper part remained lithe and lovely, her lower part shaping into a koi's tail. Alas, Atargis had eternal life. She could not follow her love beyond the world, but men still saw her sitting, full of strife, singing to the bones of her sweet fisherman, telling of her loneliness and her woe, and of places even she, born of heaven, by her nature, could never choose to go. Still, nature to its bias drew. Before long, a TARDIS felt growing within her new life, and though it could not erase all her regret, she felt the delight of a giddy wife, knowing she'll give birth to love for the first time. A daughter grew the goddess's flesh within, a daughter born as fair as the new morning, in Eden, in a world unknown to sin. So she became the mother of the merfolk. Her daughters learned, like a TARDIS, to sing, but to their mother's mournful songs brought delight, merry laughter and noisy rejoicing. So did a moment of love spark a nation that would extend into eternity. And though she mourned, the gentle TARDIS would, surrounded by love ever after be. The Mermaid of Ardvec Castle. On some days, there is heard a gentle weeping from the deep loch that by the castle lies. That is called Ardvec. Some think it's a banshee, or other phantoms falling from the skies. But that is not the truth. Tales of the castle resonate from throats all around the land. How Laird MacLeod was running short of money to build the towering castle he had planned. How a fine man, upon a coal-black charger, approached MacLeod one black and rainy day and offered him all the gold he'd ever need to build the castle. All MacLeod would pay, for the endless gold was his immortal soul. Yes, the dark man was the devil or Old Nick. MacLeod wanted the gold, but he was afraid. Thoughts of eternal pain made MacLeod sick. The devil came again on the next Sunday and told MacLeod, "I get it. I can see why a man as fine as you would not wish to fast forever in hell's dark fire with me. Yet I would still help you. I'll change my offer. The endless gold coins I will give to thee. And as a reward, ask nothing onerous, only that you give your child's hand to me in marriage one day after the castle's built. Now, I would like to give MacLeod his due." He hesitated. One would surely hope that any father worth his salt so would do. He even thought on it full 6 nights longer. But when the devil arrived a third time, MacLeod sealed the deal, and he told the devil, "When I have the castle, she will be thine." It went as promised. The gold flowed like spring rain. The best artists and masons in the land were employed to help MacLeod form his castle in all the wealth and luxury he'd planned. And all the while, his lovely teenage daughter watched her dear father's work with loving eyes. She adored him and never heard a word of the folk that whispered she should him despise. MacLeod's daughter had been named by her mother as Bella Clare. She was tall, slim, and fair. Her eyes were the color of new-mown spring grass, and she had long plaits of sleek russet hair. Everyone loved her, for she was sweet and kind. Nor did she ever seek to bring folk down. She was not royal, but none would be surprised if the girl wore a gold or silver crown. What pain her father felt nobody can say when she hugged him and she kissed him goodnight. But he continued to spend the bright gold coins, heedless of his only child's coming plight. Then the day came the castle was completed. The next day, Bella Clare, who had no blame, was to be married to the very devil. Nobody yet has discovered the name of he who warned the poor girl of her dire fate. But at dawn, she to her father's room came, demanding to know if he'd bound her to wed the one who called himself the Prince of Flame. MacLeod confessed, but would not let the girl run. He had his men lock her up in her room and bid her put on her white dress and her veil to wear to her wedding and then her tomb. Bella Claire tried every way to escape. Even as she saw the wedding guests come, nobody else knew who the foul bridegroom was, but only that the girl would have a home and family like many others besides. But Bella saw horror beckoning, then looked from her window down into the loch, wishing that she had learned the way to swim. Then, as the hour drew nearer, she made a choice that she would rather plummet down and die than swear loyalty to a hellish husband. The maiden plunged into the lake to die. Then Satan, furious, bellowed his outrage. For the price offered now could not be claimed, nor could he take his revenge on the MacLeod, because no one but Bella could be blamed. The people mourned the lady, but days later, some walking near the castle heard a cry, and then a sound, as of a sweet voice singing a lullaby towards the cloudy sky. Later, people glimpsed a pale woman sitting beside the loch, combing her vibrant hair. It was understood then that the body of the poor unfortunate girl, Bella Claire, had been transformed. But still, the lady mourns the decisions that led her to fall below the castle walls. Still, people hear her sorrow, for a life unlived the loch's waves below. The Mermaid of Dunnet Head. The young mermaid appeared around Dunnet Head. In choppy waters in the summertime, she'd sit upon the shore and sing her sweet songs, or on a high-flung sea rock, spend her time, brushing out her coils of shimmering gold hair. The residents of the village would try to come closer, or even talk to the girl, but she would dive at once into the blue and swim away into the great, vast ocean. So nobody caught more than just a flash of the mermaid, a vision of sparkling scales, a diving figure, and a sudden splash. But then a handsome boy called Callum Mewin spoke to her before she made her escape. She froze, staring into his gleaming gold eyes, surprise painted upon her pretty face. Her soft mouth opened in an O of wonder, for Callum Mewin possessed lethal charm. He'd seduced every pretty fisher's daughter. Soon the mergirl, too, hung upon his arm. She listened raptly as he read her poems about the cliffs, the wind, and the rough seaside. Before the day was out, he told the mergirl, "If you obey me, I'll make you my bride." You see, the mergirl knew of many places where galleons had sunk into the deep. In their holds, still abandoned gemstones glittered, silver and gold, unmoved by salty sleep. "Bring me those trinkets," Callum told the fair girl. "There is a man who will buy them from me. When we have money for a house and business, I'll bring you on land, and my wife you'll be." So every week, the gentle mermaid, Lena, met Callum on the rock out in the bay, carrying crowns, bright jewels, and rich necklaces, which Callum in his rowboat took away. For a long time, Lena was satisfied with moonlit caresses and vague oaths of love. But in time, she demanded proof of progress. How close they were to cementing their love. Callum's eyes slipped sideways. His face looked guilty. Lena sat silent as he turned away. From then on, she spoke to other villagers and learned Callum had sold her gifts for pay. He'd used the money to seduce rich ladies, laughing with them about his fishy bride. The next time Callum came, Lena beckoned him into the surf. She would not be denied. Lena grabbed Callum and she dragged him downwards, through light waters, and into the deep blue. Callum struggled and twisted, even pleaded. But nothing could the furious siren move. She took Callum to the seabed and chained him, with the coveted gold pleasure that gleamed. The gold he'd valued more than a mermaid's love, more than their hopes, their future and their dreams. Some people say Callum's life ended right there, and now sea kelp knits shadows o'er his bones. But others say the mermaid wove her magic to keep him living among the sea stones. If so, he lives forever watching light spears strike fragments of radiance from the gold, and he will remain there, pondering his sins, until a new world is born from the old. Subscribe to become a delicious darling. Well, what do you think of that? Before reading these poems, I had never realized that there were mermaids who inhabited lochs and other landlocked water bodies. I also learned how tragic many of the mermaids' stories are. It reminds me of a line from the original tale by Hans Christian Andersen, but a mermaid has no tears, and so she suffers more. However, I will indulge myself. Since we are so close to Valentine's Day, I will imagine that each of our mermaids goes on to find greater love and healing for their hearts until they are so happy that the former betrayals fade from their minds and hearts. In that hope, the word for those who have watched the entire episode is renewal. Write it in the comments, and then tell me which of our 3 mermaids you would like most to meet in the real world. As always, I encourage you to click like or follow, press the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell. That way, you will become an official delicious darling and a part of our much-loved family. Right, I will go and finish decorating for my Valentine's Day party. I have a bunch of my single friends coming over, and we are going to eat pink-colored food and get squiffy on champagne. Until I see you again, be safe, be loved, and sleep well, my delicious darlings.